Now that we have a way to process commands, the first command we need to deal with is going places, right? Go north, go south, and so on. And here's something that's very different between BASIC and C. On C, we can define our own data structures. On BASIC, we had variables that could be integers or strings or floats, and that's it. But here we can define our data types that are built up of simpler data types. And in order to do that, I will create a new file. And let me save this with the name game structs.h. So it's .h is a header file, and that's where we put data structures that we can, definitions that we can reuse. And definitely this is something that could be reused among different games. I could have put this on the same source as the game, but yeah, because this is something potentially reusable, it's better that we keep separate. First thing is we are going to define a data structure called location. And this data structure, it will have a description. I'm going to call it desk. It's a string. And then if you are in a certain location that has a certain description and you take a direction, let's say you go north, you land on a different location. We are defining for each one of the directions, the possible directions, we are defining a different variable that's an integer pointing to the index of that location. So that that takes care of our location. So F2, okay, just save this. I'm going to close this file, and here we bring it here. Sorry, wrong line. So same way that we included some standard libraries from the platform, here we include our game structs.h, and then that means we can use our data type location here. And for this data type, using this data type, now we are going to define a number of locations. And this is going to be a set of global variables. This is the first of a set of global variables that we are using on this program. So all the functions can see these variables. These days, global variables are frowned upon, and there are definitely ways that we could handle this without global variables. But this is the most common practice that was used back then. So we are not going overboard with global variables. We should never go overboard with them, but we're going to have some. And the type, basically we have an array of locations. We want an array of locations of this type. So this struct location type. And we say, okay, it's going to be called locks, just because it's a short, convenient name. And here we declare the first one, and we say this is an empty office. There is a door to the south and a locked door to the east. And now we have to define the directions. In our case, let's say that -1, because -1 will never be a valid array position. -1 means nowhere. It leads nowhere. I cannot go in this direction. So you cannot go north. If you go south, you go to the stock room, and the stock room is the second location. So we start numbering at zeros. So the first room, the one we are talking about, the office, that's 0. Then the stock room is going to be 1, and you cannot go in any other direction. So that's the first line, and we are going to populate this with 4 different entries, each one for a different location. But before we do that, there's something that I like here. So these numbers, they are very cryptic, right? We implemented a bit like this in BASIC, where we had a convention that 0 meant you cannot go this way, and 1, 2, 3, 4 were valid locations. But here we can do something a bit better. We can define some constants. We can say that nowhere it's -1. So that's already better. Still, we can go beyond that and say we have the location, the office is the first location, that's 0. I keep hitting the wrong character there. Location, stockroom is 1. Location, darkroom is 2. And the final location in our game is the outside world, and that's 3. So here we say direction south takes us to the stockroom, and all the others go nowhere. So we have to type the remaining locations. I will use the magic of video editing to save your time. Okay, so here we are after a small time travel. We have all the location descriptions populated, and we have all the target locations defined. And now we can get busy with the go command. Oh, first, before we do the go command, now we can say, again, the global variables, right? I'm gonna put a comment here to separate the functions. From the global variable. So we say, okay, there's a variable called cur loc, as in current location, and we start at location 0. That's our pointer to where we are. And here we can say URN, and then a string. And that string, it's going to be the array locs at position current location. So let's save it, compile it. There's error, of course. Too many types and declaration. Oh, I think I am missing a end of this structure. So let me see what's the problem here. So first thing I can see is that I have a typo. I had 2 R's there, but that's not causing the too many types in declaration error. I suspect there may be something going on with our, oh, we are lacking this the correct termination of this struct. So I'm going to save this file and this one. Let's try again. Yeah, that was it. Oh, it's complaining that the process input function is not returning a value. This, it's not returning at all. So we can save, can solve the problem this way. Now we are not using yet in this suspicious pointer conversion. I don't think we can get rid of it now. So let's try to run this thing again. You see that we have now the description that's coming from that array, so that's good. Which takes us to the next step, which is the actual command to the actual go command. So we can literally go somewhere.